Incredible rescue, black driver saves elderly woman in snowstorm, unbeknownst to life-changing legacy. Jake cradled the steering wheel, the roar of the blizzard outside drowning out his concerns. The weight of responsibility hung heavy on his chest. After a long shift delivering packages in Maplewood, he thought of his mom. Her medications weren't just a line item on his budget, they represented hope, care, and a deep love forged from years of struggle. They lived simply in the snowy town, where families gathered for warm dinners, Christmas lights flickered against the darkness, and neighbors watched over one another. But that night, it was the storm that gripped them all, a white blanket of snow urging everyone indoors. 2 blocks down, Mrs. Thompson, the dear old lady who everyone adored for her pies, was determined to brave the storm. She needed groceries, and, with steely resolve, she hopped into her small car. It was her first mistake. Trapped in a snowdrift, the world outside transformed into a blinding storm. Panic seeped into her heart alongside the chill, gnawing at her with thoughts of her own dwindling health. Hours passed, and her breaths quickened, consequences of age hitting hard in the unforgiving cold. Meanwhile, Jake's exhaustion bled into the howling winds. As he trudged through the accumulating snow, he was ready to collapse. But something stirred within him, a small flicker of light echoing his mother's love, a reminder from the potluck where he and Mrs. Thompson shared laughter over dessert. Without fully realizing it, he turned his steps toward her trapped car, digging frantically. Jake's bare hands screamed against the ice, but he pressed on, knowing that behind that door was a lady who had always fed his spirit with kindness. At last, he unearthed the door. As it swung open, the warmth from his thermos of tea swirled in the frozen air, steaming between them. They huddled together, a moment of unexpected connection. They exchanged stories, dreams long put away. Jake recounted his aspirations to become a driver for a big city delivery service, while she spoke of her wish to bake for her grandchildren again. Then, as the storm raged on, whispers of Jake's past drifted in, his felony conviction lurking like a shadow, hovering over their warmth. Would Mrs. Thompson remember the murmurs of distrust? As her grateful eyes locked with his, he sensed her moment of hesitance. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As night fell deeper, an onlooker captured them, a fleeting moment of genuine kindness. The clip went viral within days, thrusting Jake into the spotlight as an unexpected hero. The very town that had dismissed his struggles now buzzed with a conversation about race, redemption, and humanity. Elderly neighbors who once looked twice began to draw closer, their intentions mixed, banners of praise and prejudice. Hope danced on the edge of Jake's heart, but as Mrs. Thompson's health deteriorated, the storm of judgment still loomed. Could he rise above the whirlwind of judgment? As they stood on the brink of change, a thought echoed through him, pressing heavy against his chest. Would this community choose forgiveness, or would history repeat itself once again? Jake stared out of the window, the snowflakes swirling like confetti in the winds of change. Mrs. Thompson had been in and out of the hospital ever since that night, a situation that stirred a mixture of dread and determination in him. As he watched the news play clips of their rescue, he knew he had become more than just a local delivery man. He was now a symbol, an unexpected figure in Maplewood's evolving narrative. People approached him differently now. Neighbors who once turned away averted their eyes. Children stared wide-eyed, as though he were some kind of superhero. But in the back of his mind, the whispers returned, echoing doubts disguised as encouragement. Is he really reformed, was the question nobody dared voice outright, yet it pulsed through the community, thickening the air around him. Jake pulled himself deeper into thought. He remembered Mrs. Thompson's warm smile, her laughter bubbling like the pots she used to stir. His heart ached for her. They had shared stories, and he had poured out the dreams he kept locked away for her too, it seemed, in every word of encouragement she shared. But now, silence filled his nights. Silence draped his aspirations in shadows. What if he didn't just fail her but also himself? As he stepped into the small grocery store that Friday evening, the bell above the door chimed, breaking the stillness. The familiar aisles were lit warmly, but there was a palpable tension. People glanced at him, a mix of admiration and unease in their faces. He hesitated. Just as he was about to leave with a few essentials, Mrs. Collins, an elderly woman, shuffled towards him. "Jake," her voice trembled softly, "thank you for what you did. The community needed that." He nodded gratefully, even as uncertainty gnawed at him. Was her gratitude meant sincerely, or was it just a friendly facade masking their true feelings? Just then, a loud crash reverberated through the store. A display of canned goods had collapsed, sending a wave of panic. Jake's instincts kicked in. He raced over, helping staff and customers gather the fallen items. In the chaotic moment, he felt alive, as if he were doing something that transcended his past. Laughter erupted amidst the frenzy, a child's unrestrained joy spilling over at the sight of a rolling can. In those moments of chaos, camaraderie took root. As the store returned to normal, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Conversations resumed, and he noticed neighbors engaging with one another once more, sharing kind words, laughter mingling with relief. Jake smiled. Maybe there was more to this than mere forgiveness. Perhaps it was about finding a way to belong, to redefine who he was. But just as he felt a flicker of hope ignite, his phone buzzed. A message from an out-of-town number, a news outlet seeking to interview him. A voice in the back of his mind argued against jumping back into the spotlight. Did he want to be defined by a single act? Did he want the weight of expectations, the probing eyes of a community still trapped in their biases? This left him standing at a crossroads. Was he ready to step into the light again, or did he prefer the shadows? As he stood there, taking in the murmurs of rebuilding trust, he realized that this choice could change everything. With a deep breath, he thumbed the message and began to respond, uncertainty bubbling up inside him again. One question echoed loudly: was he prepared for the responsibility that came with being a beacon of hope, especially with Mrs. Thompson still fighting for her life? His fingers hovered over the screen, and as he pressed send, he felt an electric charge in the air, the kind that heralded change. Suspicions were still alive, and the storm might have calmed outside, but the real tempest within him was just beginning. What would the outcome of his decision be? Would the community decide to embrace him, or would their fears resurface, stronger than before? Jake sat in his small apartment, the screen of his phone glowing in the dim light. The message he'd sent hung in the air, heavy with potential. While snow continued to blanket the town outside, his heart raced as if it were spring. Each buzz from his phone felt like the ticking of a clock, reminding him time was of the essence. His mind danced between uncertainty and a newfound hope. The potential interview was intimidating, but it also felt like a lifeline. Maybe sharing his story could inspire others. That thought flickered in his mind, brightening the shadows that had started to creep in. But could he truly bear the weight of his past, reliving it for the world to see? With a sigh, he pushed the phone aside. Memories of Mrs. Thompson filled the void left by the uncertainty. Her laughter echoed in his ears, urging him on. So, in the silence of his thoughts, Jake made a decision not just to respond to the interview request, but to find a way to honor her spirit from his own bruised past. Perhaps that would help him find some redemption too. The next day, while getting ready for the interview, Jake stood in front of the mirror, examining the man staring back at him. Would people see a hero or a flawed man trying to mend his ways? He brushed his hair aside, trying to muster confidence. Just be yourself, he whispered. With that mantra simmering in his mind, he set off for the local studio. As he arrived at the station, he felt the weight of eyes on him again, the familiar blend of admiration and suspicion. A producer met him at the door, her demeanor warm yet professional. "Jake, thanks for coming. We really appreciate your willingness to share your story." He nodded, taking a deep breath. They walked through the bustling hallway, past crew members and anchors preparing for the broadcast. With every step, Jake's heart raced, but he tried to embrace it. This was an opportunity, a moment to connect with the community, to build bridges instead of walls. When it was finally time to go live, the lights above him shone brightly, and he felt exposed yet strangely empowered. The host smiled, a friendly face framed by bright studio lights. Everyone in Maplewood knows your story. Many see you as a hero, Jake. How does that feel? Before he could answer, the memories rushed back. Anger, confusion, moments from his earlier life, the shadow of who he once was loomed larger than life. But then he thought of Mrs. Thompson, the warmth of her hand on his, the kindness in her words. It feels complicated, he started, words spilling from his heart. I never wanted to be known for just one act. I'm just a man trying to move forward, trying to honor those who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. The host listened intently, and Jake felt the weight lift slightly. With the audience hanging on his every word, he revealed his journey, the struggles, the lessons learned, and the hope that had begun to blossom within him. As he shared his story, something shifted. The air felt different. The whispers, doubts, and fears that had enveloped him began to dissipate, replaced with a growing sense of purpose. He intended to continue this journey, not alone, but together with the community that stood by him. Just as the segment wrapped up, the host leaned in closer. And what would you say to the people who are still unsure about you? Those that fear your past? Jake could feel the weight of the moment pressing on his shoulders, and he knew what had to be said. Tell them to look at my actions. To see the change in my heart, and to remember that everyone, including myself, deserves a chance to rewrite their story. As the cameras dimmed, applause broke out in the studio. It felt unreal. Jake stepped off the set, heart racing, a weight lifted from his chest. This was just the beginning, yet, as he left the studio, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from an unfamiliar number. You're gaining a lot of attention. Some don't think you deserve it. Be careful. Jake's chest tightened. Had his moment of truth already caused ripples of doubt? Would he be able to navigate this new chapter with the very community that had doubted him? The storm outside had calmed, but a new one was brewing inside him. One he wasn't sure he could control. What lay ahead for him now? Would he really be able to prove himself worthy of the hope he had begun to inspire? Jake leaned against the cold brick wall of the studio, allowing the energy of the applause to settle into his bones. He had touched something deep within the community, but now, those words on his phone, those words hung in the air like thick fog. Some don't think you deserve it. Be careful. Who were those some? Fear slithered into his thoughts. Stepping outside, the winter air greeted him with a biting chill, contrasting sharply with the warmth of the studio lights still dancing behind his eyelids. He needed to keep moving, to shake off that ominous message. But where to go? The snow crunched underfoot as he wandered aimlessly, trying to process everything. What did it mean to have his past come barreling back? Just as he was starting to feel hopeful, he pulled his jacket tighter, glancing at the surrounding streets, now deserted. Only the sound of his own footsteps filled the silence. Then, he remembered Mrs. Thompson's words, "The greatest battles come from within us, Jake." He needed to find his strength, to figure out who he wanted to be in this chapter of his life. His phone buzzed again, pulling him from his thoughts. This time, it was a group chat that lit up messages from his old friends, a blend of excitement and admiration spilling onto his screen. "Did you see him on TV?" One message blared. "Such an inspiration. He deserves all the love." Another chimed in with a photo of him from the interview. Jake felt a warmth creep back, the echoes of support wrapping around him like a safe blanket. But as quickly as it came, a dark shadow lurked in the back of his mind. A few skeptical comments appeared next, questioning his credibility, his character. Can he really change? One person wrote. What is his real story? And suddenly, the weight of skepticism pressed down on him again. His heart raced. He couldn't ignore these doubts. What if they were right? What if he was still that bad decision-maker, that lost child. Jake stopped in his tracks. He needed to face this head-on. A decision surged within him. He would not let the shadows dictate his path. If Mr. Thompson were here, she'd remind him to keep going, to show the world his reality, to confront it with courage. With a newfound determination, he turned toward Maplewood Community Center. It was there he could meet face to face with those who had doubts. He could explain the truth, his journey, the changes he had made. Maybe even invite them into his world, let them see the growth. As he pushed through the heavy doors of the community center, he was met with a mix of familiar faces, skeptics and supporters alike. The chatter faded as he stepped into the warm hall. Jake felt his heart pounding. Would he be able to gather the courage to speak? Would they hear him out? "Hey everyone!" he called out, his voice cutting through the noise. Eyes turned towards him, some filled with curiosity, others with skepticism. He cleared his throat, feeling the electricity in the room, a mix of tension and anticipation. "I want to talk about what I shared last night, and my journey since then." He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their thoughts pressing on him. Faces remained etched with doubt, but he also glimpsed sparks of hope. He was ready to lean into the storm, to share the truth about his life, and to let them see the man he was trying to become. What would they think when they heard his story? Would he move them toward understanding or push them further away? At that moment, Jake realized that facing the truth was far more vital than fearing judgment. His truth was more than just his past, it was about redemption, connection, and a second chance. He straightened up, ready to pour his heart into every word. This was his moment, but would it lead to acceptance or more resistance? The room held its breath, waiting for him to reveal what lay beneath the surface. Jake took a moment to soak in the tension around him. The air felt thick as he scanned the room, faces flickering between support and skepticism. He recognized some from his past, others he'd only met recently. Each one had a story that connected them to him in some way. Maybe, just maybe, this was the moment that could redefine him. "Last night, when I shared my story, I didn't just want to talk about what I did. I wanted to show you who I am now," he began, steadying his voice despite the tremor in his hands. "I know there's doubt. And I understand why. I've been on both sides of this divide." Several heads nodded, and he found a sense of solace in their gestures. They were still listening. "I made mistakes. Big ones. I hurt people," he confessed, his heart pounding in his chest like a war drum, honesty spilling from his lips. "But I'm trying to be better. Every day is a step toward redemption." The murmurs rippled through the audience. He caught a cautious glance from a man in the back, someone he used to know well. The weight of those eyes hit him hard. Could he break through? "I spent years feeling lost, thinking I was stuck. But that changed when I decided to share my journey," he continued, his voice gaining strength. "What you see on TV is not just some story, it's a testament to what can happen when you confront your demons. I'm committed to this path." He took a breath, feeling the warmth of memories flood back. Mrs. Thompson's wise words, the friendships he'd forged along the way, the heartache he'd endured. Then he spoke of the community center, the help he'd received, how the people sitting in front of him shaped his transformation. "I owe it to you and to myself to be vulnerable. This isn't just about me, this is about all of us. We rise together or we fall apart." Jake felt the energy shift. Some eyes softened, others brightened with understanding. And yet, he could still feel the skepticism lingering in the room, a reminder of the hurdles remaining ahead. "Perhaps I don't deserve your trust right now. But I swear I'm working for it," he said, his voice cracking slightly, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "I want you to see me for who I am today, not who I was before." A woman in the front row, her brow furrowed, stood up. "We've watched the news, we've seen the interviews. But it's all so easy to doubt what we can't see." Jake nodded, respecting her honesty. "I get that. Trust isn't just handed out, it's earned. All I'm asking for is a chance to show you the effort I'm putting in." The room was silent again, this time charged with anticipation. Maybe there was still hope. Maybe he could shift those lingering doubts into something more positive. His heart swelled with a mix of fear and determination as he approached the end of his speech. What do you want to know? I'm here to answer anything. Let us be real. I'm a work in progress, and I want you all to walk this journey with me. Suddenly, a hand shot up at the back, catching him off guard. What about your family? How do they see you now? Jake hesitated. That question landed like a punch. His family had seen him at his worst, trapped in a cycle of mistakes. The truth of their disapproval loomed over him like a cloud. My family, they're learning to accept me again. It's not easy. But I know I'm on the right path because I can see glimpses of hope in their eyes. He watched as the crowd absorbed his response, the weight of honesty shifting something within them. As he prepared to close, Jake realized this was just the beginning. These conversations, these connections, this was where the real work began. He needed to keep pushing forward, not just for himself, but for those around him. Thank you for listening. I hope this is only the start of more open dialogue between us, he concluded, eyes flickering over each face, searching for signs of acceptance. The room pulsed with electricity, and Jake held his breath, waiting for their response. Would they close off again, or would they open the door to something different? Would he be able to turn this moment into a foundation for new beginnings? The weight of their thoughts lingered in the air, thick and fragile, like a new layer of snow waiting to be disturbed. The silence hung in the room like a heavy blanket. Jake felt the eyes of the crowd bear down on him. Anticipation buzzed in the air, like static before a storm. He shifted his weight, searching for a spark in their expressions. Finally, a young man in a baseball cap spoke up. You've had some tough times, Jake. But how do we know this time it's different? The question resonated with an honesty that almost stung. Jake took a deep breath. The truth was, he didn't have all the answers. I can't promise I won't slip up again. But I can promise I will try harder to do better, to learn from my mistakes, he replied, his voice steadying. All I can offer is my sincerity and the promise to keep doing the work every day. The murmur of conversation broke the silence, a wave of voices mingling with doubt and understanding. This was a turning point or a fork in the road. Jake could feel the collective hearts in the room weigh the chances of trust against painful memories. A woman in the front row leaned forward. What if we see you trying, but it doesn't change anything? What then? Her voice held a steadiness that mirrored the concern etched on her face. That's fair, Jake admitted, nodding slowly. But growth isn't a straight line. It's messy, and it takes time. Trust is a two-way street. I need you all to be patient with me. Give me a chance to show up, to prove that I am here for the long haul. He felt the urgency in his chest deepen as he spoke. Each word was a prayer for understanding. Jake glanced around. Some faces had softened. Others still held tight to their skepticism. And just like that, he realized he needed more than words, he needed actions, tangible things to show he was serious. One woman, older and with kind eyes, raised her hand, her voice cutting through the chatter. Jake, if we're going to believe in the person you are now, maybe you should start by helping others, actually showing us you are committed. Can you lead a community service project or something? Her suggestion hung in the air, and Jake felt a flicker of hope. Yes, absolutely. I know I can start there, he replied, enthusiasm bubbling beneath his calm exterior. I want to use my skills and my story as a way to give back. Let us start something together. Encouraged, the crowd seemed to shift. They were no longer just spectators, they were potential allies. The skepticism lingered, but it twisted around something more hopeful now. A shared mission. Let us meet again next week to discuss ideas, Jake suggested, drawing on the connection that had formed. I'll bring some ideas, and hopefully you all can share yours too. The room buzzed with a mix of conversations, anticipation seeping into every corner. Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. This wasn't the end, just a tiny light at the beginning of a long road. As people began to stand up, ready to leave, Jake saw the man from the back again. He walked toward Jake with purpose, his expression inscrutable. "I still have my doubts. But I see you trying, and that counts for something. Keep your head up, man." Jake managed a genuine smile. "Thank you. Just being here, talking about it, that means the world. I won't take it for granted." With that, Jake watched as the crowd filed out, chatter erupting about possible projects and shared goals. Hope surged in him like a tidal wave, carrying with it the weight of their trust, but as he stood there, still processing the overwhelming mix of support and skepticism, his phone buzzed silently in his pocket. He opened the message from his sister. "We need to talk. It's important." His heart sank. He hadn't expected to hear from her, especially not with an urgent tone. Would this conversation bring the family connection he craved, or would it unravel everything he'd just begun to build? Jake stared at the screen, his heart thudding like a bass drum. Thoughts raced through his mind, battling between excitement and dread. He hadn't spoken to his sister in what felt like forever. Would she understand? Would she still want him in her life after everything? As the last few stragglers left the room, he found himself drawn to the window, the streetlights glowing against the gathering dusk outside. The wind whipped up little flurries of snow, swirling in the air like uncontained thoughts. He pushed his phone back into his pocket, needing a moment to breathe. He had just taken a step back into his community, seeking to prove himself to people who had every right to doubt him. But now, it felt like the universe was pulling him in two directions. He clenched his fists, feeling the need to ground himself. This was his chance to forge a new path, yet the shadow of his family loomed large. After a moment's hesitation, he decided to leave the center. Turning away from the temporary warmth of newfound connections, he walked to his car, the biting cold hitting him like a wave. Each snowflake that landed on his cheeks felt like it carried another bit of uncertainty, another reminder of the challenges he had faced. When he finally got in, he rubbed his hands together, trying to shake off the chill and the nagging worries lurking in the back of his mind. He started the engine, letting the warmth seep in, and gazed out at the falling snow. There'd be no turning back now. He had committed to the community, to helping others. But could he piece his family back together at the same time? He gripped the wheel, trying to steady his racing thoughts. Driving through the snow-blanketed streets, another wave of memories crashed into him. The moments of laughter, arguments, the silence after every falling out. His sister had always been his closest ally, the tie to his past that hadn't fully unraveled. Seeing her today, it could either be the beginning of healing or another hurtful chapter. Arriving at her house, he hesitated before stepping out into the cold. With each crunch of snow under his feet, his doubts grew heavier. This conversation felt monumental, like walking a tightrope stretched over the doubts of the past and a flickering hope for the future. When he knocked, the door opened almost immediately. His sister, Rachel, stood there, her face a mix of surprise and something that looked like worry. "Jake," she started, her voice trailing off as her eyes searched his face. "Hey, can we talk?" It was simple, yet so complex. The words held the weight of everything they hadn't said to each other. She stepped aside, and he walked in. The familiar comfort of her home embraced him, but the tension hung thick in the air. "Let us sit," Rachel said, leading him to the living room. As they sat down, Jake felt the weight of the moment. The flickering light from the fireplace illuminated shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere charged with anticipation. "What is it?" Rachel finally asked, breaking the silence. The urgency in her voice sent a ripple of anxiety through him. "I got your message. You said it was important." He swallowed hard, searching her eyes. "Is it about Mom?" Uncertainty flickered across her gaze. "It's more about you, Jake. There is something I've been meaning to tell you." His heart raced as he recognized the seriousness in her tone. It wasn't just about healing or the titanic weight of their past. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a reckoning. "What is it?" He pressed, leaning forward. Rachel took a deep breath, and in that moment, as the fire crackled softly behind them, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. Whatever she was about to say could change everything. The air was thick with unsaid words, and he braced himself. Would this be the turning point he'd been hoping for, or was it about to spiral into more uncertainty? Rachel shifted in her seat, her fingers twisting together, betraying her own anxiety. "Jake, I've been doing a lot of thinking." After everything, her voice wavered slightly, causing a spark of concern to ignite in Jake's chest. "It's been hard for both of us, and I don't want you to feel like you have to do this alone anymore." He felt a lump forming in his throat. The weight of her words hung in the air, laden with both promise and past grievances. But he started, uncertainty shooting through him. "Are you saying you want to forgive me? Is that what this is about?" "It's not just forgiveness," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "It's understanding. I've been stuck in my own head, thinking that you had all the chances in the world to fix your life while I was left behind picking up the pieces. But maybe we can do this together if you're willing." Jake felt a wave of both gratitude and fear wash over him. He hadn't been sure how she'd respond, but now the possibility of healing loomed closer. "Rachel, I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt you or push you away. I thought I was protecting you. And in turn, you ended up isolating yourself," she countered gently, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. "You had so much pain, I get that. But it didn't have to be that way. We could have faced it together." There was a quiet strength in her voice. It reminded him of the times they had conquered challenges side by side, each difficult moment solidifying their bond. But years of silence had created chasms he now feared might be too wide to cross. Rachel leaned forward, firelight warming her anxious expression. "Jake, I don't want to dwell on the past. We're here now, and we can choose to move forward." Breath caught in his chest, he nodded slowly. "Yeah, I want that too. But what if it's too late?" A flicker of hurt crossed Rachel's face before she composed herself. "It's never too late. We've both been lost, but we can find each other again. Just give me a chance." Jake hesitated, the gravity of her offer settling heavily between them. Could he really take a leap into the unknown? Would he allow himself to believe in a future that felt so steeped in uncertainty? "Okay," he finally whispered, his heart pounding despite the warmth enveloping him. "Let us try." A soft smile crept onto Rachel's face, a light in the dark. "Great. And there's something else I wanted to discuss." Before she could continue, the shrill sound of her phone interrupted the moment. She glanced at the screen, her eyes widening. "It's Mom, she's calling." Jake's stomach dropped. The tension crackled back to life, intertwining with the warmth of newfound hope. The last time he'd spoken to their mother flashed in his mind the harsh words, the sharp judgment. "Do you want to answer?" Rachel asked, frowning slightly. He stared at her, a torrent of conflicting emotions bubbling to the surface. There was so much he wanted to say, yet part of him was terrified of what the conversation could lead to. He could hear the urgency in Rachel's voice as she pressed, "Jake, this might be the moment we need. Facing all of this together." Jake felt the weight of both options bearing down on him. Would facing their mother now strengthen their bond, or risk tearing them apart once more? "Do I?" he asked, voice trembling slightly. "Can I?" The tension in the room shifted again, charged with possibilities both terrifying and thrilling as the call continued ringing. He took a deep breath, locking eyes with Rachel. What lay beyond that call could change everything. Jake watched Rachel's phone continue to ring, the piercing sound slicing through the tension that hung thick in the air. Each ring felt like a countdown, an invitation to face the past he was all too eager to avoid. But Rachel's warm, steady gaze urged him to step forward. "Look, it's just a phone call," she said, her voice steadier than his heart felt. "We can do this." He nodded, as if to convince himself more than her. Taking another deep breath, Jake reached for the phone, his fingers trembling. As he pressed the green button, a rush of fear pulsed through him, and he felt as if he was standing on the edge of a cliff. "Mom." Rachel's voice was soft, an anchor amidst the storm inside him. "Rachel? Thank God. I've been trying to reach you." Their mother's voice crackled over the speaker, filled with anxiety rather than the anger Jake had half expected. Jake felt his heart race, a tiny flicker of hope igniting but still encased in dread. He could hear the worry in their mother's tone. "Is everything all right? I heard there was a snowstorm headed your way." "Yeah, we're safe. Just a lot of snow," Rachel replied, attempting to calm their mother, perhaps as much for her own benefit. "Jake's here with me." There was a moment's silence that felt unsettling. "Jake? You haven't spoken to him since." "I know," Rachel cut in gently, "but I wanted to talk to you both tonight." Jake braced himself for the impending confrontation as their mother's sigh pierced the silence. "It's just been hard for me too. I thought maybe you know how I can get. I just want my kids to be okay." The sound of uncharacteristic vulnerability in their mother's voice caught him off guard. He had always thought of her as strong, unyielding. But this was different. "Mom," Rachel began, her tone shifting. "I know things have been rocky, but Jake and I are trying to figure things out. We want to find a way to move forward." Another beat of silence stretched, loaded with tension and unspoken words. "Is that so?" Their mother's voice sharpened unexpectedly, piercing through the momentary peace like a knife. "What about all the years of hurt, Rachel? What about the lies?" Jake felt a fresh wave of guilt cresting over him. He wanted to step in, to defend Rachel, but the air in the room felt electrified, charged with all the hurt they had buried for so long. "We can't keep going in circles," Rachel asserted, her voice a steady flame in the face of their mother's anger. "We can't heal if we don't face the truth. Together." Jake glanced sideways at Rachel, feeling her determination swell, feeding into his own. Could they really turn this moment into a breakthrough? "That's not what I'm hearing," their mother countered, the edge still present but wavering. "Finding each other again? You both can't just brush the past aside like it never happened." "No, we can't," Rachel replied firmly, "but we deserve a chance to try. To be honest and start fresh, even if it feels impossible." The phone crackled as their mother sighed again. This time, it was filled with an uncertainty that stirred something in Jake. He leaned in closer, already anticipating their mother's next words. "All right, I'll try. But promise me," she said slowly, her voice laced with worry, "you two have to really commit to this. No more hiding from each other." Rachel nodded, even though she knew their mother couldn't see her. "I promise." Jake swallowed hard, his mind racing. Maybe this moment would be the turning point they both needed. This was the step towards vulnerability they had avoided for too long, but as hope filled the space, a loud crack of thunder rumbled outside, shaking the windows. The lights flickered, casting shadows across the room. Jake's heart thudded. He felt the weight of change in the air. "Are you two okay?" Their mother's voice pierced the thunderclap, grounding him. Jake glanced at Rachel. It was clear this was only the beginning of the conversation. The air was electric, filled with heavy emotions just waiting for release. "Can we talk more?" Rachel asked, her eyes hopeful yet cautious. "Can we really open that door?" The question hung there as they waited for her response, the storm outside matching the tempest within. Whatever answer came next could determine everything. The air crackled with anticipation as Rachel's question hung like a taut string between them. Jake steadied his heart against the echo of thunder rumbling through the winter night, knowing this moment could shift everything. They waited, breaths held in unison, a tapestry woven with the threads of anxiety, fear, and hope. "Let us talk. I need to understand," their mother finally said, her voice trembling through the speaker. Relief flooded Jake, mingling with determination. They were crossing the threshold into the reconciliation process, allowing vulnerability to seep into their fractured bond. "Thank you," Rachel replied, emotion thick in her voice. As they navigated through the waters of their fears and disappointments, Jake could sense the intensity of the storm inside them both gradually easing. The discussion bounced from memories of laughter lost to the years of estrangement. Each layer they unpeeled revealed more pain but also glimpses of understanding and clarity. "Jake," their mother's voice broke through the vulnerability, "you made choices, ones I still struggle to comprehend. But I've seen you trying to change. Your rescue of Mrs. Thompson told me maybe you're not who I thought you were." Every word was an affirmation of his struggle, a validation of his journey toward redemption. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, Mom. But I've made mistakes." He looked towards Rachel, who nodded reassuringly, her eyes full of warmth. Together, they created a dynamic where the focus shifted to healing rather than blaming. They shared fragmented stories that were soaked in regret, years stolen and lives altered. The momentum of honesty lifted the conversation into something tangible. "Jake, I've been angry," his mother admitted, her voice softening. "Angry at you, angry at myself, angry at all of it. But I didn't realize how much that anger built a wall between us all. I let it. I've been angry too. Angry at myself for not being better," Jake replied, guilt weighing on his heart. "But I'm here now, trying to mend what I can." The invitation for forgiveness began unfurling, like fresh blooms pushing through stubborn winter frost. They were telling their truth for the first time, stitching pieces of the past back together with threads of understanding and renewed commitment. Jake felt the ground beneath him adjust, a solid foundation forming in his heart. "Mom, I want to be a part of our family again. I want to make things right," he implored, his voice faltering but steadfast. "I want that too," she answered, the sincerity enveloping them in warmth. "I want to choose love instead of disappointment." And with those words, something shifted entirely. The storm outside ceased its howling, yielding to the gentle sigh of nature seeking peace. It felt like a shared catharsis, a new beginning layered with hard-earned understanding. They were tentative yet hopeful. After what felt like an eternity suspended in time, Rachel spoke up, "We need to make this a commitment. Let us meet regularly, talk openly, no matter how hard it gets." A pained smile flitted across her face, capturing the gravity of their endeavor. Jake nodded in agreement. "I want to share my progress. I want you to see it what I'm trying to do." Their mother's voice cracked slightly, "I want to understand more, too. Hear how you're doing, how you want to help others." With the warmth of a rekindled connection sprouting in the air, they crafted plans. As hours slipped by, thoughts transformed into actionable ideas. They envisioned community projects, healing among neighbors, showing real faces to the hidden stories of Maplewood. As they concluded the call and embraced the fresh promise of family togetherness, Jake felt the tremors of his past beginning to settle, weighed down by the hope of his future. Although the battle to rebuild trust was still ahead, he stood at the precipice of something beautiful, an opportunity to rewrite not just his own story but that of his family's too. In that moment, the phone buzzed again. A text from Mrs. Thompson read, "I'm home. I'd love to hear from you. Let us bake together again soon." Jake smiled through unshed tears. The circle was closing, a beautiful tie encompassing love, redemption, and connection. As Jake looked outside to the soft snow gathering once more, he understood his journey was far from over. He needed to embrace the future. He hadn't just delivered Mrs. Thompson from winter's grip, he had also rescued himself, unlocking hope buried deep within. He took a deep breath, feeling lighter than ever before, and glanced over at Rachel, who smiled back, a mirror of his own hope. In this moment of transformation, they had found a way forward. Now was the time for action, a time to build their new life. If you're inspired by Jake's journey, you need to subscribe now and join us on this transformative path. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this hope too. I want to hear your reactions and feelings. Comment below and share your thoughts on how we can support each other. Don't wait not even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to believe in the power of redemption and community.